Sometimes it seems like managers actively don't want to get it. One time I had a client that had a very big warehouse with a large number of Vietnamese national employees, employees who were born and raised in Vietnam and moved here. About 75% of their employees were from Vietnam, about 20 some odd percent were from Mexico, and the others were just a mix of a variety of people. And when they asked me to come in, and they said, this warehouse is a mess. It's not a warehouse, I'm sorry, it was a distribution facility. It's a mess. There's boxes all over the floor. We can't, keep things organized. And I said, and what have you done so far? And they had a whole list of punishment systems in place. And I said, so it sounds like you think that people are leaving a mess on purpose. And the manager said, well, obviously. And they're just lazy. And I asked what he thought they should do next. And his idea was to give every employee a specific row in the distribution facility that they were in charge of. And at the end of the day, he was going to walk through every row. And if there was a box on the floor in someone's row, they would get a demerit. And after 3 demerits, they'd be fired. So I said, you know what, give me just a couple of days, because I'll tell you what, I didn't say this to him, but as soon as you hear the word lazy, if somebody says to you, these people are lazy, which is what he said, they're leaving stuff around because these people are lazy, a huge red flag should go off in your head, because very few people are by nature lazy. Human beings need to accomplish. We need to do. I have to say, an extremely small percentage of people are by nature, pathologically, lazy. People almost always don't do something for a reason. Now, usually it's a fear of failure or a fear of success, but in this case, it was entirely different. So I say, give me a couple of days to work as an employee in this distribution facility. And I came back the next day in my jeans and sneakers ready to work. And what they did was they handed out pick orders, which are these sheets of paper that say, here's what you need to collect. And you go around with a big box and you collect these items and you bring them to where they were going to package them up to distribute them. Now, you can't see me, but you may remember by looking at me, there's something that I have in common with the average person from Vietnam. Not all people from Vietnam. The average person born and raised in Vietnam is shorter than the average person born and raised in the United States. So am I. And I was a little bit taller than most of the employees. And I noticed something. After a couple of hours of climbing up these racks and racks and racks of product to get things in my box to bring it in on time, and you can't see what's in the rack, in the boxes on the rack. So I'd take the whole box down, put it on the floor, and pick out what I needed, and then carry the box back up, climbing through these pallets and all over the place. And then you'd get another item on your pick list that was back in that same potential area, and you have to take the box down. And after a while, I started leaving the boxes on the floor. Who wouldn't? The fact is that we could not see what was in the box, in any of the boxes, when we were standing on the floor. So of course, we had to climb up, pull the boxes down, put them on the floor. Who's going to keep standing up, dragging the boxes all the way back up, dragging them back down, unless you're totally afraid of being fired all the time? And that's not a great way to get people to be motivated. They needed ladders. Ladders on wheels, lockable ladders on wheels, solved the whole problem. This same guy, I walked around with him as we walked through the warehouse, and he said, another thing that drives me crazy about these people, in addition to the fact that they're all lazy, is that they're constantly talking. I mean, listen, as you walk through, listen, they're just talking and talking. And we passed a couple of women who were filling their pick boxes together and chatting in Vietnamese. And he said to them, speak English, please. Speaky English, pleasey. And I thought, 2 things. One, do you want to work for a guy who talks to you like that? And 2, wouldn't you talk to someone else if you were in the same aisle filling a box right next to each other? Would you really not say anything? And the fact that they're speaking Vietnamese means he didn't know what they were saying, and that made him uncomfortable. And I can understand that. That is uncomfortable. Maybe they're talking about me. But it's pretty amazing how so many of us think that other people are talking about us when they're speaking in another language, as if we are so fascinating. I mean, they're probably just saying, how's your kid? How much longer till we get off duty? What do you want to have for lunch? I mean, these are normal kinds of things that people do talk about at work. So sometimes we have to just take a moment and try to think before we just make a decision about a whole group of people.